we live in London. We're going to Dublin,
Yep.
and we had several discussions today on 5G. Right?
Yeah.
The point that we've been trying to make with all these investors, with all the people that we're talking about, with governments, is the fact that private 5G may be a lot more than just a couple of words.
I think
Because you guys agree that in these meetings, it's 80% brainstorming. That stuff that comes out when we're talking to the investors that we think it's a good idea. We mention over there, and then later on after the meeting, you know what? Actually, that makes sense. Actually, this brings the project maybe a little bit more over there or a bit more over here.
I think perhaps we'll just bringing in a couple of comments that I think we've made and I think are becoming clearer now. Although 5G, everybody's talking about 5G, today it's something that is still, for any sort of real coverage, is probably 2 years off. And more to the point, the thing which is clear...
I think it's 5 years off.
No, but what I'm about to say is the thing that is clear to me at the moment is that the 2 years off is going to be the B2B business. 5 years before I see
consumer,
I see B2C, I see business to consumer activity in a huge coverage.
Yeah. The B2B potential is absolutely massive, and I think the whole Industry 4.0 is something that people are reading about, definitely has the opportunity to grow, and I think this is really where factories can make things more efficiently. Looking at Western Europe, and we're all under pressure to produce more, and my camera just died, to produce more and be more efficient about it. And I think people are sort of thinking, well, why not Wi-Fi? And I think that even the investors now are understanding the differentiator 5G has. The fact that latency is a major asset to have, low latency is absolutely super to have.
I think it's more than that. It's again on the from the point of view of the business to business activity, especially in somewhere where such as an industrial situation, having the opportunity to have your own. When we say private network, that means that it's yours and you have your own bandwidth, and you are not going to be disturbed by somebody walking past downloading the latest film. So you have the guarantee that you will have your own bandwidth. You have the guarantee of higher security. You have the latency or the lack of latency, which in some industrial situations is very important. If you're counting and looking at widgets going past conveyor belts, it may be very important. Some other situations, latency may not be of any significance. But the fact that it is there and is the opportunity, I think, is the most significant part. And compared with the other alternatives, such as, you mentioned Wi-Fi, even Wi-Fi, the very latest incarnation of Wi-Fi, which I think is called Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 6, they have built in the security, but again the difference is when I walk out of the door with my 5G enabled solutions that may be more than just located in a single factory, when I walk out the door and I walk down the street, then I can potentially connect into a local MNO's network. And the issue there is if you've got Wi-Fi, that is not going to happen. Or it may happen, but it's not going to happen anything like as seamlessly as you may desire it to happen. There's a lot of horses for course.
Yeah, but you see, let me go back to what I said. I mean, if you think about the infrastructure that, you're talking about a factory, okay? And via cables, you can connect the factory. You can bring the connectivity to it. 5G is just more convenient. Right? So the argument that they had in Germany, which made a lot of sense, was that when is 5G coming to my factory, which city outside the city?
Yes.
Right? They want 5G. They were told by the government to automate their factories, to bring in the technology, make it, go to the next level. But 5G is not coming for them. At least not for a while.
Immediately, yeah.
So it makes sense that they want to have their own 5G solution. But let me go further on this. We're talking about a factory. I want to go back to the hospital situation. Okay? The hospital, you can have a cable, a fiber that will connect directly to the hospital, directly to the operator. If you have a 5G, a private 5G, that link is not going to fall, and that's mission critical.
Yeah.
Because you may actually be relying on doctors across the world monitoring a patient. You may be, there are more serious implications.
Yes.
I mean, the factory is important because of economical reasons. The hospital is a healthy situation, and then there is the leisure that we also spoke about, the hotels, right? A hotel wants to have a private 5G because it's actually an extra income for the hotel. The hotel is going to be making money from everything that happens there.
And they can improve their internal monitoring systems. I think that's what people are forgetting, the number of IoT devices. We were talking about smart home and stuff, but in a hotel, you can automate anything. You don't need to monitor stuff, you can repair things before they break.
Yeah.
And I think this goes back to our comment right at the start, that the first 5G market is the B2B market, the business-to-business market. Consumer comes on, in this particular case, comes on the back of the business. Unlike 4G, unlike 3G, both of which were driven by the consumer and the consumer's desire to download, access faster data. The perceptible difference to the consumer is going away. And this is where, as you say, things like the ability to monitor thousands of devices rather than the number of devices that you can afford to physically wire up is going to be really significant.
So let me go back. I think we're going back to something that happened, if I'm correct, I think it's 40 to 50 years ago, if more, probably more actually, when the private 5G within any construction, any building, it's like back in the day that it's putting copper inside the building.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's the same thing. It's the last mile. So why would a construction company, when they are building the complex, they are building the building, why don't they just go ahead and have networking implemented anyway?
Yeah.
In fact, it might be good for the construction company because the revenue is going to generate. And the examples can be, I can go on and on and on and on. In fact, you can still have the fiber to connect that 5G network inside the building, not having to pass cables and Wi-Fi's throughout the whole place. Systems that we know very well they don't work.
So
we know how complicated they are.
Which drivers are going to make this actually happen? People know about
It's the industry 4.0. It's the automation that we can see happening.
And you think 2020 is going to be the year that industry is really going to start looking at this actively?
I think that we are in the very early stages, which is actually what makes it exciting as an opportunity. We are in the very early stages, but the only thing is in the horizon of the next 5 to 10 years, there are no solutions.
So an interesting question. I think one thing that's very important is spectrum. We've seen countries like Germany thinking, right, we need spectrum for industry.
Yeah, but
what do you think the rest of the world should do?
Yeah, but you have to remember a very important thing that the regulator in Luxembourg told us. Okay, that we have to be careful on the spectrum because you can generate interference.
Yeah,
if I have the same frequency on the 5G, the private 5G inside a building and outside, they are going to interfere with each other.
There is the potential. That of course relates quite is quite closely linked to the particular frequency bands within that allocated spectrum. So as you go up the 5G bands that they've allocated are way beyond the existing 4G bands. The 4G bands stop at around about 2.1 gigahertz, and the 5s go way up.
Yeah, but let me argue what you're saying, okay? The higher you go, the more information you can put into the same wave.
Correct.
The problem is now we're talking about private but 5G inside the building.
Yes, so your
So-
penetration levels are...
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I need to have the low frequencies,
Yes.
okay, to be able to connect all these devices.
Well, it works both ways because as you go higher and higher frequency, then it becomes more and more line of sight. So you can you get to the ultimate, which is light, which is at the very far end of the electromagnetic spectrum. So if you can't get around a corner because you've got a shadow, then that's a problem with that sort of demonstrates the ultimate problem with frequencies, with the higher frequencies. But the way around that potentially is to install multiple smaller antennas. If you do have a problem with interference, then the antennas end up, they're smart antennas and they're pointing inwards rather than pointing outwards. But this is part of the radio planning. This is part of the planning solution, and it will be something, but I don't see it's a huge impact.
Taking
guys,
this into account, though.
sorry to interrupt. Sorry, guys. We will continue this conversation, but we're gonna lose our flight.
Okay.
So
Cheers for now.
don't forget
Bye.
to subscribe, hit the bell button, and hopefully we won't miss the flight. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.